Douglas Sloan. He's a Democratic political strategist and a consultant with the National Capital Strategy Group. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks very much for speaking to us, Douglas Sloan. So the president's press secretary said that Trump planned to honor victims, comfort families, and thank emergency workers for their heroic actions, both in Dayton as well as in El Paso. By going to these two cities where the mass shootings happened, what do you think the message is that Trump is sending out?
Well, I think that Trump is seeking to be the consoler-in-chief at this time. He does not have a reputation for being very reassuring or very comforting. So he's trying to control and change the narrative in that regard, and he's going to go out to these two cities where mass shootings obviously occurred over the weekend to try to provide, hopefully, some moral leadership to reassure some of the people in those cities that things are actually going to turn around and go in the right direction, and to console them, which is what president should be doing, although Trump does not have a reputation for doing that.
So is he going to be able to achieve that, and is his presence there going to soothe people?
That's a big question. I don't know if at this point in the game that tiger can change his stripes. Trump has a history of being antagonizing, of being incendiary, of also starting fights, lighting fires, and generally espousing negative and racially tinged rhetoric at the worst times. So it will be interesting to see if he can keep his cool during this trip. We already know that some of the elected officials in El Paso, I also understand that some of the victims in El Paso would rather he stay home. I understand that the mayor of Dayton has been quite critical of President Trump in the past days, saying that he has been very unhelpful. So it'll be interesting to see if Trump can actually keep his cool and actually appear presidential.
But this is a president.
This time of need,
yeah,
not
this
just
president
for the
did come out
Paso,
earlier
but
this
for
week.
all of America.
Right, but earlier this week, President Trump did come out and he spoke on television, and he condemned white supremacy, he condemned bigotry as well as racism in his remarks earlier this week.
He did do that, which is good for him to finally do that after all of these years, and not saying that there are good people on both sides. And he also called for addressing the mental health situation regarding guns. I mean, perhaps that would have been more helpful had he and the Republicans not sought to lift the restrictions for access to firearms for people with mental health issues as soon as he got into office. So the most important thing that he can do, along with the Republicans, is pass some meaningful, sensible gun control legislation in Congress.
And I'm not sure if you heard our reporter speaking to a Republican member just a few moments ago on our air, where he said that the Democrats are taking the opportunity to sort of politicize all of this and politicize Trump's visit to El Paso. What's your reaction to that?
That is a standard Republican talking point. The bottom line is that the Republicans never want to do anything to address the spate of violence and mass shootings that we are currently dealing with in this country. We're not politicizing it. We're calling for action. Thoughts and prayers never do anything. It doesn't get anything accomplished. There has to be real action. We need to see a fundamental change in this nation's gun control laws. They have mentally ill people in Europe and in Asia. They have video games in Europe and in Asia, but they don't have our gun violence problem. Why? Because they do not have unfettered access to firearms like we have in this country. Until we address that issue, we will continue to have these problems, and we will continue to have these deaths.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Douglas Sloan, we thank you for speaking to us from Washington.
Thank you.